Beautiful. All right. So those of you that want to get interactive with us via text message, the number is 0960 Via WhatsApp, use the same number 0960 You can also call us on the same number. At a push of a button, you'll be through as we put you through to ask your questions in relation to what we're going to be looking at on the program. The number is 0960 Of particular interest for today's edition of Chartback are matters that have been topic or trendy and that have really dominated much national interest, generated so much debate and interaction, discourse across the country. This has to do with the National Dialogue Forum and the liquidation of Konkola copper mines. So the core and the fulcrum of our interaction will hinge largely on these 2 points. All right, Mr. President, I would love us to pick it up on the National Dialogue Forum, NDF. For starters, there was a directive that was issued by the United Party for National Development, and consensus was reached that the party's members of parliament should not participate in the National Dialogue Forum. All right, quite a number of them did not participate, but there were 16 that defied the party directive and went ahead and participated. Now, my first question to you, Mr. President, before we get to the very pertinent other aspects of the NDF, is their fate sealed, the 16 that defied the party directive ahead of 2021? We're talking of party nominations, of course.
Yeah, Lorenzo, thank you very much. And once more, really, I'm very pleased to be on the program after some time. And it is very important that we cover those 2 subjects and cover them, sufficiently. The National Dialogue, the so-called National Dialogue Forum, as well as obviously the KCM matters, although we know KCM matters are in court. But we'll find a way of doing that. Now, let's start with the question on the MPs, UPND MPs, and the perception you have given on understanding that their fate is sealed. Now, here is the issue, first and foremost. The National Dialogue Forum was an exercise in futility. The National Dialogue Forum Act that came out of the bill which was presented in Parliament is illegal because it contravenes the Constitution. Which part of the Constitution? The Bill of Rights. It does contravene the freedom of assembly, because through that act, National Dialogue Forum Act, citizens were coerced, were threatened with jail sentences, including myself seated here, for the position you've just articulated that I did not agree. We as a party did not agree that we should proceed with an illegal activity under the National Dialogue Forum Act, if you want, National Dialogue Act. So it starts from there. And why am I saying these issues? It is clear, and we have made it abundantly clear, that constitution making, for instance, is a consensus building process. It is persuasion. It is not coercion. Constitution making is a square and right responsibility of the people, not a select group around PF. That is another matter. So number 3, because of number 2, you cannot make a constitution where one party who is also a player, let's call it a business of football. I don't want to call it a game. Politics is not a game, it's serious business. That's why we are suffering as a country. We've considered politics as a game for too long. We've allowed, people playing games with lives of people and therefore destroying the economy as it is destroyed today. You cannot have the same participant in a football business, 11 players, 11 participants on one side, and on the other, another 11. So it's 22. The 23rd one, is a referee, isn't it? Now, in this case of the national dialogue, one member in this football business, who is Mr. Lungu, is playing number 9, scoring. At the same time, he's playing the number 23rd member of this business, which is being a referee. Are you sure that when he's offside, he will whistle that he's offside? He will not. So he alone appointed the chairman of the dialogue process. You can't be number 9 and also you are the referee. It is wrong. Even away from the law, it is wrong. So there are many wrongs that obviously affected or were associated with the dialogue process. And very quickly, Lorenzo, so we get to some of your, I think, substantive issues, some of our substantive issues today. Look, all of that composition below the chair was groups by and large aligned to the PF, government department members, people from cabinet office, people from parliament. All these are arms of government under the control of the executive, who is the same person, in this case, number 9, referee, also in charge of the executive, selecting those who went to the dialogue, including surrogate parties, political parties, who we know are just in existence to support PF agenda. Now, that is wrong. And Lorenzo, I've been saying to the people of Zambia in recent times, what is wrong, we must accept it's wrong. Choipa ni choipa. Chabuino ni chabuino. So, all of this stuff around the National Dialogue Forum, the way it was conducted, the legislative process, which was illegal against the Bill of Rights, the composition, the election of the chair, appointment of the chair, is wrong. And the process now itself has proved that it was wrong. As you have seen, people who were sitting in that forum, like President Chanda, walks out. President Lukuku was in there, sat throughout, is now revealing how the process was conducted, in line with our earlier expectation. So the only thing we did as UPND is to have foresight to say this cannot work because the structure is wrong, the composition is wrong, the process is wrong. So that is wrong. Now let's come to what is right. Constitution making, as I said, should be based on the owners of the constitution must decide, the people of Zambia. They were not properly represented there. We made that case already. Secondly, the constitution is by the people, for the people. That's the second point, for the people. The people were not represented there properly. The church mother bodies were not there. A lot of civil society organizations were not there. We as UPND were not there. You know, NAREP was not there. Several other parties were not there. You know, Sean Tembo and his President Sean Tembo was not there. Several were not there. It cannot be called it was by the people, it's for the people. The third issue is that always constitution making is anchored on persuasion, consensus building. That's why Zambians have made decisions through various constitutional review, review processes. Mainza Chona Commission, Mwanakatwe Commission, Mungomba Commission. All of these were consultative processes, and they came up with results that reflected the people's wish. A lot of those decisions, those desires of the people are not in the proposals. We will get to the proposals, I hope. Very, very important. Then it comes to the UPND members of parliament. One, the party position was very clear that we don't go, we don't participate, and we didn't. We're actually expecting to be prosecuted. I don't know when the prosecution will start. We're very, very eager, waiting for that, so we can expose the illegalities. And I can tell you that they will not even come, because they know they will lose the case. Second, members of parliament, under this fourth process, first agreed that it was a fourth process when it was a bill on the floor of the House, and we rejected it, they rejected on the floor of the House, in the committee, starting with the parliamentary committee, and PF still proceeded. Now, at this point, because of this illegality of this act, because they wanted to prosecute individual members of parliament, and for the party, we have no qualms about it. We don't fear prosecution. Then individual MPs were obviously aware of the party position from way back when the dialogue effort started. Commonwealth, ZCID we rejected, Church Mother Body-led dialogue we agreed. So this was the wrong process. So they then had to make a conscious decision on their own, knowing what is right, which is not to participate, what is wrong, which is to participate. But obviously some were threatened with legal action. Some had their own issues. But I want to be very cardinal. None of them will be victimized. We've made it public, because that was your question. I had to go back a little bit for this basis to be understood correctly. None of them will be prosecuted inside the party, based on the party position, policy position. None of them will be, if you like, victimized. Some of them are listening to PF. PF is telling them that they will not be adopted. I don't know where they're getting that from. It's not from us. Certainly, Lorenzo, it is not from us, because we have made it very clear that that will not be the case. But the issue is that these members, I think, ought to continue examining whether what they participated was right or wrong. As you now know, the issue of legal risk is not there, because the forum itself confirmed, after duping people, confirmed that they cannot prosecute anybody because they'll be contravening the rights of individuals. Freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of conscience to think. So it is not there. So I think, in a nutshell, after giving a background, there is no fate that is sealed against the members of parliament. By the way, there are fewer than 16. That's my knowledge. Anyone who knows anything more than me, they are free to share information. Initially, they were supposed to be 17. Now I hear someone, I don't want to mention his name, he's saying somewhere participating through WhatsApp or text messages. I don't know, Lorenzo, about that. But if someone knows, I will be happy to be updated. But the issue is that there is a job to be done going ahead. Lorenzo, that job is when this bill, constitutional bill, comes on the floor of the House, we expect the members of parliament of UPND to be on the side of the people, to be on the right side, not to be on the wrong side. The wrong side is to dance with PF. So the critical time and the defining time, and we believe our members of parliament will actually decide with the people, is to vote against this bill when it comes to parliament, and will articulate why this should not be allowed, why voting for it to amend the constitution will be offending the 17 million Zambians. Thank you.
All right, getting on to my second point, Mr. President. There's the infamous decision. We're looking at the proposals now, all right?
Yes.
There's the infamous decision at the forum to bring back deputy ministers.
Yes.
People know the notoriety of having a deputy minister is that it kind of like brings about a bloated budget in government. And
Yes.
not surprising that people seem not comfortable with having deputy ministers back into government. Now, I want to get your position on this one. What did you make of this proposal being included in the bill that should be tabled before Parliament? Bringing back deputy ministers, with government having functioned smoothly the last 3 years without them. Your comments, please.
Lorenzo, first and foremost, I'm very grateful you have raised this issue. And I plead with you that we go through, there are about 7 or 8. Maybe we can discuss 6 critical ones, the changes that propose to make.
You can plead, after the deputy ministers one, you can actually run one by one.
I'm negotiating with you. So
not a problem.
Together we can, this is just the first one.
Not a
then
problem.
We can go to the second, so that
not a problem.
Citizens and listeners can see why associating ourselves, whoever it is, with this sham process is wrong. It offends the people of Zambia, the greater majority of the people of Zambia, other than the few. The deputy ministers. A proposal has been made to include, to revise the constitution to bring about deputy ministers. First, let's look at what numbers are we talking about. Lorenzo. There is a proposal in this sham dialogue process that provincial ministers, current provincial ministers,
start attending cabinet meetings.
10 of them will now be upgraded to cabinet level, which means they start attending cabinet meetings. But to an innocent mind, there must not be something wrong with that. But to a deep mind, there's a lot that is wrong about it. One of those things that are wrong about it is the cost that will arise from this proposal. The second aspect is that you are going to have, from the provinces, deputy ministers, Lorenzo. So I started first with the provincial ministers currently who are at the level of deputy ministers, now being upgraded to cabinet level. My dear friend, that increases the cost, that increases the number, and therefore the cost of running government in a country that is distressed. We'll come to that. Now, there are 10 provinces, Curtis. It means that, sorry, Lorenzo, it means that there will be an additional 10 deputy ministers from provinces. It's at the number. Then, if you have a cabinet of 30, there will be now 30 deputy ministers at minimum. At minimum. There could be more. So you add now 30 ministers, 20 from the provinces, provincial ministers and deputy.
That's 50.
That is 50. Mm-hmm. Then you add 30 deputy ministers.
80.
That's 80. 80.
Mm-hmm.
This is madness of the highest order. This is crazy. The cost associated with this, Lorenzo, will be salaries, it will be allowances, it will be travel, it will be water, it will be motor vehicles, it will be maintenance, it will be fuel, it will be insurance, it will be so many things, including these ministers, who many of them never could buy an economy ticket to London. Now they want to fly first class or business class. The cost of travel. All of this will be added to it. Attendant auxiliary costs. What are these? Office space, accommodation, residential office space. What else? It will be associated staff, secretaries, drivers, all of those associated costs. Huge costs coming into hundreds of millions of kwacha. Now, Lorenzo, where is the common sense here? If that's all you need to have to run a government is common sense, we in the UPND believe you need more than common sense to run a country. You need to have vision. There's no vision in this decision. You need to have a proper understanding that when the economy is broken like this, you need to reduce costs. But the PF are increasing costs. They are increasing costs to who? To cover for who? To cover politicians. Remember, all these ministers and deputy ministers are already members of parliament. They are already earning a salary in parliament. But then they are going to increase their salaries. They are going to increase the costs around them. When civil servants who retired a long time ago, parastatal workers who retired a long time ago, including university lecturers who retired a long time ago, NCZ, Kafio Textiles, those who retired in the mining sector when the mines was owned by the government, 100%. Those you have seen queuing at Ministry of Finance in the court, sleeping there outside, waiting for their benefits, have not been paid. But this PF is increasing cost to itself, to politicians. When, Lorenzo, salaries are delayed, someone is increasing salaries and costs to themselves. when student allowances, meal allowances are not paid, when many students are not in school, when many men and women in uniform, Lorenzo, my dear brother, have very poor conditions of service. They go for missions, peace missions, their allowances are cut. This PF is cutting their allowances. Very criminal, very brutal. Accommodation is poor, salaries are low, men and women in uniform who are risking being killed at these peace missions. You are aware there's one citizen who's been killed recently. And, surprise, surprise, now you have a situation that in a lot of these barracks locations, there's no water. There is no water. There's no water or water challenges at 4ZRA, Luena. Water challenges at L85, Lusaka West. And in many other military installations, police camps, paramilitary camps, even uniforms are a problem. And someone decides to spend to increase more money on themselves, on politicians. Where is the shame if that's all you need to make the right decision? How can the National Dialogue Forum say they are proud of what they did? Is this something to be proud of? Maybe to PF, certainly not to UPND. It's unacceptable. Today, the PF government has imposed a 500 kwacha, charge per month to support what they call a cooperative scheme amongst men and women in uniform. And for one to qualify to borrow, that individual, he or she should have a minimum book balance of 3,000 kwacha. What sort of banking is? Even in a commercial bank, your minimum balance is so little. And today, you are imposing costs to men and women in uniform who are already distressed. And what do? You increase your own benefit from the government. Who pays? It's a taxpayer. The woman in the market who cannot sell tomato because there's no money for someone to buy tomato. The woman in the market, the youth in the market who has no trading place because there's no proper shelter which is clean, where there's a toilet. This is paid by a bus driver, Lorenzo, who is charged fees, if they are lucky, by a council, but more important, by PF cadres, who I call thugs, charging them levies at bus stops, at taxi ranks. They are the ones paying for this cost. And they're paying for them to suffer. People of Zambia, please let us say this is wrong, this is right. This NDF, in regard to the deputy minister, is wrong. Lorenzo, let me close this point by saying the successive constitutional review commissions, which were consultative, were very clear that we do not need deputy ministers. Even the NCC, under President Mwanawasa, resolved that we do not need deputy ministers. We do not need deputy ministers. What is going on? Who is making decisions for the people of Zambia? The economy has no money. People have no businesses. If you are a landlord, you own a small house, you have no tenant because the tenants have no money. But someone is introducing lavish living for their friends, for their relatives. We must reject this issue of deputy ministers, as has been done before, and we must not support the NDF. We must not support the bill, parliamentary bill, or not constitutional bill in parliament. UPND members of parliament, this is your opportunity to be on the side of the people. Independent members of parliament, this is your opportunity to be on the side of the people. PF members of parliament, this is your opportunity. Otherwise, you will be hit hard in the 2021 election by the voters who are in pain and you want to award deputy ministers lavishly. It is also a ploy by PF to actually entice opposition MPs, independent MPs with deputy minister positions, with minister positions, so that they can kill democracy, they can distort freedoms in our country. As the PF, Lorenzo, you may know, you may not know, they are moving towards driving our country back to a one-party state. So they can do anything they want. We will stand. We will stand against this. And let me declare openly here. If H.H. Hakainde Hichilema will be the last man standing, I will stand alone on the side of the people. So people, remain hopeful. Thank you.
Looking at the second point, there was also a proposal to have an option of having a coalition government. All right. Now, that kind of like defeats the fundamental of a 50% plus one majoritarian elected president. What did you make of that proposal?
Lorenzo, it is absolutely crazy. It is obscene. It is absolutely obscene to imagine, first and foremost, that the PF can want to move to a coalition government to circumvent the people's wish for a majoritarian system, to have a 50% plus one for a winning party or president. By the way, we have a presidential system here. We don't have a parliamentary system. That's another point. How do I know this is what people want? It has come through from various constitutional review commissions. Just for example, Mungomba Constitutional Review Commission, National Constitutional Conference. This decision was made by the people through a consultative process. Lorenzo, remember, in 2016 January, what did Mr. Lungu do? Didn't he go to the stadium, Independence Stadium, Hero Stadium, and dancing around, even playing with a pen like that? He says he's signing this constitutional amendment. In there, January 2016, around there, he included a constitutional amendment to bring about a 50% plus one, and argued then that this is what the people have always wanted. And he was dancing around, as he does dance, when he's saying, this is so annoying to people because people have no food. The melemel is too expensive, right? We need to lower the cost of melemel. We need to lower the cost of food. But someone is dancing around it. He is dancing. He was dancing there. That he has done what the people wanted. What has changed? Was he lying then? Maybe yes. Is he lying now? I know he's not telling the truth. So, this is a negation of what people want. People want 50% plus one. He amended the constitution himself. The MPs then in the House were duped to think that he was doing the correct thing. Now he wants to dupe them again to correct what he said was correct within a short period. 2016, 2017, 2018. Really, you can talk of 2.5 years. You mean the mind of his is so forgetful of what is right, what is wrong? It means he didn't know what was right then. Neither does he know what is right now. That's confirmation. Let us not destroy people's wishes. People want a majoritarian system. Why, amongst other reasons they want a majoritarian system, they want inclusiveness. They want not exclusions that we see today. That's the first point. The second point around this, Lorenzo, is that PF knows they've lost popularity. Mr. Lungu knows he has lost popularity. He knows he will not win the 2021 election or area election. Because anything is possible. And when I say this, some people get scared. Oh, what is HH Akambachan? Oh, Apanga Mulandu. Kuribe Mulandu. The people of Zambia decide when they want an election. In 1991, the people of Zambia decided to have an election 2 years ahead of the scheduled election. The scheduled election, Lorenzo, you may have been young that time, was supposed to be 1993. But the people said, Twachula pafla, tavutika maningi, twaya andaman, tulukupenga man, twapenga. We want an election 2 years ahead. And the people of Zambia decided so. They are the owner of the constitution. They can amend it. They can decide what they want to change leadership. that is failing, they did change leadership 2 years ahead of the regular 5-year period. It's the people who decide. So, Kuribe Mulandu Tingapange for saying this. So, the people of Zambia, whenever the election will be held, they've taken a decision that PF has destroyed their families. There are too many marriages breaking today because of economic hardships, which lead to social hardships, which lead to hunger, which leads to arguments between husband and wife. And marriages are breaking. And children are suffering. And women are suffering, men. Lorenzo, the only thing that's keeping PF in office are a few things. One of them is abusing the police. Number two, abusing the security system, including some, very few, in the security system. And number three, the breakdown in the rule of law, where they do not respect the law. Those are the only few things keeping PF in office. But it is clear, come an early election, come 2021, now, why are they doing this 50% plus one? They want to survive, cling on to a straw, like a man who is drowning in the river, hangs on to a reed, to a straw, and hopes that that straw will save them, but they will still sink and drown. That is the typical situation. This is wrong. Let us have democracy to fulfill the wishes of the people. Let us maintain the majoritarian system. If you are tired, as the PFR, machokamo, mwenda pumula. Actually, Zambians will celebrate, and celebrate even harder. So this is wrong. It is also a matter that is extremely important. Why am I saying so? You cannot circumvent progress in a country. You cannot force yourself to stay in office because you want to circumvent the law, the rules, and change the law. There's one writer, I won't mention the name, very ordained writer, who says, when you see in a country there is no rule of law, when you see men in office changing the laws to suit their needs, then you know you are dealing with tyrants. Then you know that there's no more a state to talk about. What you have is corrupt men ruling, forcing themselves on the people. So let's maintain the system. It was also going to create a lot of confusion at Lorenzo. We don't know how they're going to do it because you have issues of a parliamentarian system where you can do coalitions based on that. But behind it, there are a lot of other attendant laws, other attendant procedures that you need to change. Now, PF has no capacity. It has no will to do that. So they're just going to create more confusion. Thank you.
All right. Now, what do you make of the proposed amendments to the Public Order Act? The Public Order Act, for a long time, has been thought to be a cake. And there was an effort that was made to make amendments to the Public Order Act. I would want us to hit the top of the hour at this point, and then when we come back on the other side, we pick it up with our instructions on KCM.
Yeah, but we need to move a few things quickly. I'll try and move quickly if you allow me to have a free flow very quickly. I think on this one, Lorenzo, it is what NDF did is Mickey Mouse. It is Animal Farm. That's what they did. Like they did on the Electoral Act. Completely. I call it Animal Farm because you cannot tinker on the edges. You cannot tinker on the edges and expect that people will be satisfied. I'm talking about the majority of the people. I'm not talking about the few beneficiaries in beer. Because you simply touch on the issue of the enjoyment of freedom of assembly and association and the regulation of public meetings. You think you've done enough? No. Currently, the Public Order Act does not allow the police to restrict freedom of assembly and association. But they are doing it against the current provision of the Public Order Act. So there are issues relating to ability by PF to respect even the existing Public Order Act. They are not respecting it. So two things here. The proposed amendments are inadequate. Number two, the enforcement is not even assured that that will be respected. And if you allow me, therefore it means that they are doing Mickey Mouse on the Public Order Act or Public Order Act bill, Public Order bill. We need an overhaul of the Public Order Act. If you allow me, Curtis, Lorenzo, stop me if you wish. On the Electoral Act, on the Electoral Bill, they've only tinkered around on reducing their campaign period from 90 days to 60 days. This is wrong. Again, we should call things by their name. This is wrong. Why is it wrong? There are 157 constituencies in this country. Tell me a superman who can campaign in 60 days and reach out to 157 constituencies. Because a presidential candidate is a candidate in these 157, is a candidate in thousands of wards, not hundreds, thousands of wards, in around 12 to 15,000 polling stations. How will HH reach 13,000 polling stations, where I'm a candidate at every polling station in 60 days? What magic? When we try and use faster transport, you are aware, Lorenzo, in 2016, 2015, unlike the arguments being made, some people, ignorant arguments being made by some people, you see, we use helicopters. Even on a helicopter, you cannot reach 13,000 stopping points in 60 days. This is crazy. This is irresponsible. But let's tie this to one issue here, which is another recommendation in the National Dialogue Forum. That recommendation, Lorenzo, is to keep Parliament open up to the election day. That is wrong too. Let me contextualize. Let me put the two together. That provision proposes wrong. One, it will not allow for free and fair elections in terms of campaigns. Ministers will continue in office up to the election day. In fact, maybe until the declaration of a new winner. But for Parliament, up to the election day. PF thinks Zambians are fools. What are they trying to achieve? One, they want to circumvent the decision of the Constitutional Court when we in UPND, Lorenzo, we took to court and later joined by Law Association of Zambia, LAS, the PF ministers who served in cabinet after the dissolution of Parliament in 2016 and earned money, salaries, taxpayers' money illegally. We went to court, we got a court judgment, and the PF has not obligated, the ministers have not paid that money, which money we need to be paid to pay student allowances, to pay meal allowances, to pay policemen, to provide water at 4ZR in Luena, to provide water at L85 in Lusaka West. We need the ministers to pay that money. In order to run away from paying that money, in their naivety, which is not possible because the judgment was already made. You cannot nullify it by a new judgment or a new decision. They have to pay that money. Instead of being onerous to pay that money, they are now coming around this constitutional provision. They are also doing, Lorenzo, something illegal. What is that illegal? They want to be using taxpayers' money to campaign for a longer period. On one side, they reduce the period for all of us in opposition to 60 days. They will maintain the campaign period by the 90 days by staying in office and using fuel, using allowances. Imagine, you and I will be paying ministers and MPs allowances to campaign for PF. Meanwhile, we are not even allowed to fly there because we are not allowed airspace, usage of airspace. ZAF was denying us flying space, our right, but we're being denied. Where is the democracy? We see through this. Zambians have seen through this. PF will not get away with it. Citizens of Zambia must gang together and reject this provision and see them for the evil that lies in them. Thank you.
All right, we're going for a commercial break right on the program. Join us into the second hour as we keep interacting with the UPND President, Hakainde Hichilema. The number for your calls after we've exhausted the KCM point is 0960-200-490. That's 0960-200-490. Send your text messages. Those of you catching us via Facebook Live, you can post your comments there as well. I'll be able to get to you in no time. I can see Agnes Banda in Antananarivo, Madagascar, listening to you live.
Thank you very much.
There, and I also have Betty Scarlett tuning in live from the United Kingdom, and many of you via Facebook Live. Would like to appreciate your joining this program. So join us in a teeny tiny bit. I'll briefly interrupt transmission on Facebook Live and reconnect you for the second hour when we come back on the other side. But one more time, the number for you to call is 0960 200 490. At a push of a button, you'll be through to the program. So don't you go away. Stay tuned.